Item number 7 of the style guide specifies that you are to express everything in your own words. And I must caution you not to become so enthralled with the writing style of your sources that you actually want to borrow locutions or phrases from them. What may be perfectly natural for one writer will sound very strange or odd in the work of another one. So avoid that as soon as you are aware of it. And the example that I've given you here is a group of words that could be interpreted in various ways. This is something that almost no American or anyone on this side of the Atlantic would use to express what it means to someone, let's say, on the other side of the Atlantic or in the British English-speaking world. Obtaining tuition from someone. Well, I know what it would mean to you, but it is certainly not what it means to to another writer. In fact, it's a very grandiose way of saying that someone is studying with someone else. Okay? Simply put things in your own words, make them sound like you. Now, speaking of words, you should use only those words that you absolutely understand and that are a natural part of your vocabulary, or at least a part of the vocabulary that we are using in this class. There will be occasions when you will have to use technical terms that are new to you to describe something, and if you need to do so, you need to provide a brief definition of it. And this is exactly how I would deal with this particular word here, congruence. You remember that from the demonstration. Well, by the end of this class, you will have vocabulary sufficient to define it. You already know what a canon is, don't you? Congruence is a type of a canon, and it's a special kind of a canon. It is a retrograde canon. Okay, by the end of this class, and once you finish Unit 9, you will know what retrograde is and what a retrograde canon can be. Notice how I have defined that word. I have simply provided a very brief definition of it right after the word itself in parentheses. A very easy thing to do. Now, if you are careful to write as you normally write or speak without borrowing other people's phrases or words, you will end up sounding like yourself. And that is the best thing that you can do as a writer. The very best writers sound exactly like themselves. Now, the next thing that I've cautioned you about in the style guide is to write about only matters that you actually understand. And this is the example that I gave you here. I see such things every semester, and I don't understand why students feel that they need to bring overly complex things into this exceedingly simple assignment. An inverse sesquialter relationship to the prolation of the semibreve in the secunda pars. Now, that may or may not make sense to anyone. That may or may not be sensible at all. The only person who has any right whatsoever to use such a phrase and to write about it is someone who understands it perfectly. If you do not understand it, for heaven's sakes, do not write about it. So, the best thing to do is to get rid of any such thing. You do not need that. And please do not feel obligated to describe anything that you do not understand. Deal with only the things that you actually understand from the work that you have done for this assignment. Now, the next two things that I want to draw your attention to are items 11 and 12 of the style guide that tells you that all expressions of date, time, and age should be put within or at the ends of sentences, and that you should avoid beginning sentences with prepositions of time. Now, it is perfectly okay in English written or English writing to do so. For the purposes of this assignment, I want you to avoid it because I want you to get used to the fact, to get used to varying these things within sentences, largely because it makes your text flow better, and partly because it's actually easier to understand things when these things, dates, time, and ages, are buried within the sentence. So let's go through the text here and let's see how we would correct it. And right here in the second sentence of the first paragraph, you see that it begins with a when. Well, it's very easy to take that when clause and to put it later on into the sentence. So what I would do is I would simply erase it and the first phrase, and I would put the when clause in the sentence someplace else, just like this. And you will see this when you are actually dealing with your own text. It usually comes very close to the end of the sentence or the end of the phrase, and you will see that your writing flows much better as a result of it. The same thing here with this second sentence. Notice that we have in this second sentence an expression of age right at the beginning of the sentence, and that is a very distracting thing to have to deal with. It's always much better to bury that sort of a thing within the sentence. So simply erase it and put it somewhere else in the sentence. And here would be a good place to put it right here. Just that simple to take care of it in this particular sentence. Now, let's go on to the next paragraph, and in the next paragraph you see the sort of thing that I see every single semester, and it's really, really distressing to see it. And that is in at the beginning of a sentence followed by a year. The best place to put a year, and especially if it is prefaced by the word in, is someplace within the sentence. And I would put it right at the beginning of this first clause here. In, I forget the year, but it was 13 something. Okay? It works much, much better there to place it there within the sentence. Let's continue on through the text, and let's see if we have any other sentences that begin with such things, and we don't have them here as far as I can see. But we do have one here in the last paragraph. We have several months later. Well, that's the sort of thing that really works out much better if it is placed right at the end of a sentence. So let's simply erase it, and let's put several months later right at the end of the sentence. And if you do this with your own text, if you shift these sorts of things around in it, you will see how much better your text flows because of it. Simply by moving it to another location, you have improved the quality of your text. And I believe that takes care of all of them. If we don't have one of these, if I discover another one, I'll make sure that I take care of it when we encounter it. Now, the next thing that we need to do is to make sure that that there are no abbreviations for ordinal numbers within within the text. That is abbreviations of 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, etc. And here is our example of it. Simply write it out in words. And it's very, very easy to do. It's very easy to type out the word rather than typing out the abbreviation. Now, number 14 refers to using the standard American form for dates, and I must insist on it. Oh, that's just it's so annoying to look at other forms of dates. They are so strange in their variety, and I have no idea why people on this side of the Atlantic feel obligated to adopt these bizarre practices that people use in other parts of the world. Heavens, people, that's just ridiculous. On this side of the Atlantic, we start with the name of the month spelled out in full. We follow that with the day of the month. If it's a single-digit day, 1 through 9, no zero in front of it, a comma, and then the year. It really is exceedingly simple. There is no reason to have all of these extraneous and strange details in your writing. All of you know exactly what a standard American date looks like, and that is what it should look like. There we have the month, there we have the day, followed by a comma, space, and then the period. Just that simple. Now let's move on through this to see if we have any other dates that are in need of correction. Oh yes, here's that little refinement that I told you about, referring to general dates like this here, 1300s, 1400s, 1900s, whatever it is. You don't need the apostrophe in it. There's no reason for it. Just get rid of it. Oh, here we are. Here's one of those little expressions of time that I was referring to earlier. Basically, it's always better to put that someplace else in the sentence, at the end of a phrase, at the end of a clause, or at the end of a sentence. Back to the expression of standard American dates. This one is almost standard, but it has this unnecessary ordinal in it. There is no need to use the ordinal there, and it is very distracting, and it just looks terribly strange. Also remember, if you have a date within a sentence like this here, make sure that there is a comma after the year as well. Okay, one little tiny refinement that will help you, and it will spare you work later on when you are doing the assignment. Number 15 in the style guide specifies that you are not to have any contractions in your writing. By contractions, I mean two words elided or drawn together, and we have at least one example of it in here with didn't, and it's easy enough to write this out as two words. Simply did not. I thought there was one more in here. If I find it, I will take care of it when I see it. And I certainly will see it when I take a look at your papers. It's always easier to see mistakes in other people's writing, far easier than it is to see mistakes in your own. It's terribly, terribly unfair, isn't it?